There is a kind of exhaustion that no amount of sleep can fix. The exhaustion of constantly shrinking yourself so other people can feel comfortable around you. The exhaustion of sensing everything too deeply, thinking too much, feeling too much, noticing things no one else seems to notice. You walk into a room and instantly feel tension before anyone speaks. You meet someone for the first time, and something inside you quietly whispers that they are hiding pain. You feel changes in energy before events unfold. And after years of this, you started believing something must be wrong with you. Maybe you are too emotional, too sensitive, too intense, too aware. But what if the part of you that struggles the most is also the part of you that sees the deepest? Carl Jung once wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is becoming who you truly are. Not who the world trained you to become. Not the version of yourself built for approval. Not the smaller version created just to survive. The real you, and maybe nobody ever told you this. Your sensitivity is not a mistake. Your intuition is not weakness. Your depth is not dysfunction. It may be the most refined instrument you possess. If this message already feels personal, take 1 second right now and like this video. Because what we are about to talk about is not entertainment. It is recognition. And before this video ends, you are going to remember moments from your life differently. Moments you once called anxiety. Moments you once called overthinking. Moments you once dismissed. You are going to realize that something inside you has been trying to speak for years. And maybe, for the first time, you are finally ready to listen. Also, if you have ever felt misunderstood for simply being deeply aware, subscribe to this channel. Because this journey is not about escaping yourself. It is about finally understanding yourself. The first thing Jung understood was that human beings do not arrive in life empty. We arrive carrying patterns, potentials, sensitivities, invisible maps already living beneath consciousness. He believed the soul enters life like a seed, and inside that seed already exists the blueprint of what it is capable of becoming. Life does not invent your deepest nature. Life reveals it. Watch children before the world teaches them to perform. Some instinctively comfort people who are hurting. Some stare at nature as if they are hearing a language adults forgot. Some describe dreams with unsettling clarity. Some can sense conflict between adults, even when nobody raises their voice. The world calls these things imagination. Jung called them evidence. Evidence that something deeper exists beneath personality. He called it the collective unconscious, a vast psychological inheritance carried through generations. Not only memories, not only trauma, but capacities, unfinished emotional realities, ancient instincts, emotional intelligence shaped through survival. And this is where most people misunderstand themselves. You think your sensitivity started with you, but maybe it did not. Maybe your nervous system inherited unfinished survival patterns from people who came before you. Maybe your hyper-awareness developed through generations of people who had to stay emotionally alert in order to survive difficult environments. Modern epigenetic research now supports what Jung sensed intuitively. Studies on intergenerational trauma show that emotional responses can pass through generations. Fear, alertness, sensitivity, stress responses. These things do not always begin in one lifetime. And what gets inherited is not only pain, what also gets inherited is the strength created by surviving that pain. That means your ability to perceive deeply may not be random. It may be part of a much older story, a continuation, a responsibility, a gift. And deep down, part of you already knows this. You have always felt different, not superior, different, like you were listening to frequencies other people could not hear. Like you noticed emotional undercurrents most people walked past. Like ordinary conversations often felt strangely empty. You kept trying to become less sensitive. But no matter how hard you tried, you could never fully disconnect from your awareness. Because awareness is not something you invented. It is something you were entrusted with. Now here is where Jung becomes uncomfortable. Most people believe the gift exists despite suffering. Jung believed the gift often develops through suffering. That changes everything, because suddenly your pain is no longer meaningless. Think about the people with the deepest empathy, the people who can feel another person's sadness before words appear. Very often, those are the people who spent childhood carefully reading emotional atmospheres. They learn to sense tension early. They learn to detect danger through silence. They learn that words and truth are not always the same thing. What looked like emotional damage became emotional perception. The wound became an instrument. The child who had to study facial expressions became the adult with extraordinary intuition. The lonely child who escaped into imagination became the adult with profound inner vision. The person who once felt emotionally unsafe became highly attuned to subtle emotional shifts. The wound did not interrupt the gift. The wound shaped it. And this is important. Jung never romanticized suffering. He never said pain is beautiful. He said pain can create capacities no other experience creates. That is very different. You suffered. That matters. But maybe the cruelest thing you ever did to yourself was calling the abilities created by that suffering a flaw. You called it anxiety. You called it overthinking. You called it being too emotional. You called it weakness. Meanwhile, your soul may have been developing perception. If this resonates with you, comment 444 below. Not for the pain itself, but for the moment you begin seeing what the pain was building inside you. Now Jung identified something else that most people completely miss. Every gift has a shadow. Every strength becomes suffering when it lacks awareness. And many people are living inside the shadow version of their gift without realizing it. The first form is the prophet. These people sense things before evidence appears. They know when something feels wrong. They can detect emotional dishonesty quickly. But without integration, this becomes anxiety. The nervous system never relaxes. The inner alarm system never turns off. The second form is the healer. These people absorb emotion naturally. They feel what others feel, sometimes before words even exist. But without boundaries, empathy becomes exhaustion. They carry emotional weight that never belonged to them. The third form is the dreamer. Their inner world is vivid, symbolic, creative. Dreams feel meaningful. Intuition arrives through images, but without grounding, they disconnect from reality. The fourth form is the wise one. A quiet inner voice guides them. Not panic, not fear, something calmer, something precise. But without humility, wisdom turns into ego. And the fifth form is the observer, perhaps the rarest. These people see beneath performance. They notice the wound beneath anger, the insecurity beneath arrogance, the loneliness beneath withdrawal. They understand human behavior deeply, but without emotional balance, they become isolated from people. Now pause honestly. Which one sounded less like a gift and more like the struggle you have spent years trying to fix? Because according to Jung, they may be the same thing. There is also something painful almost every sensitive person experienced growing up. At some point, you showed your depth honestly, and the world rejected it. You were told you were too sensitive, too dramatic, too emotional, too intense, too imaginative, too much. And slowly, you learned to hide parts of yourself. not because they disappeared, because belonging felt more important than authenticity. So the gift went underground. But hidden does not mean gone. Jung believed what we suppress becomes shadow. And shadow does not stop operating. It simply operates unconsciously. That means your sensitivity kept functioning. Your intuition kept speaking. Your emotional awareness kept receiving information. But now, it happened beneath conscious control. That is why so many deeply perceptive people experience unexplained anxiety. The gift is active, but it has no conscious direction. And there are three fears that usually appear here. The fear of being seen. Because at some point in life, being emotionally visible did not feel safe. The fear of losing control. Because intuition does not operate according to logic. And the fear of being right. Because if your deepest perception is accurate, then you become responsible for what you know. That responsibility can feel terrifying. But hear this carefully. You were never too much. You were simply carrying something the people around you did not know how to hold. The modern world rewards efficiency, speed, productivity, performance, but depth moves differently. Real awareness cannot always be rushed. Sensitivity does not fit neatly into systems designed for constant stimulation. And yet, the world desperately needs people who still know how to feel. If this video is helping you understand yourself differently, subscribe right now. There are millions of people silently carrying this same experience. And the moment we stop seeing depth as weakness, everything changes. Now here is something fascinating. When the gift begins waking up consciously, life often becomes temporarily uncomfortable. Old patterns stop making sense. Old identities begin cracking. You suddenly feel disconnected from environments that once felt normal. Not because you are lost, because you are changing. The first sign is inconvenient intuition, not fantasy, not mystical drama. Real intuition. The uncomfortable feeling telling you not to trust something before you understand why. The inner knowing that a relationship is changing before evidence appears. The strong pull toward a different direction before logic catches up. The second sign is the change in your dreams. They become heavier, more symbolic, more emotionally charged. You wake up feeling like your unconscious mind is trying to communicate something important. The third sign is synchronicity. Meaningful coincidences begin clustering around your life. You think about someone, and they call. You find the exact message you needed at the exact moment you needed it. A conversation unexpectedly answers a question you never spoke aloud. Jung believed synchronicity is what happens when inner transformation begins aligning with outer reality. The fourth sign is your relationship with solitude changes. Silence no longer feels empty. It feels necessary. You begin craving space, away from noise, away from endless distraction, because something deeper becomes audible in stillness. And the fifth sign is a strange sense of recognition. Moments that feel familiar beyond explanation. People who feel instantly significant. Places that feel emotionally known. Experiences that create the strange feeling of returning rather than arriving. If you are experiencing these signs right now, comment 528 below. Not because transformation is coming, because transformation may already be happening. Now, we need to talk about something extremely important. Not everyone with deep perception becomes wise. Some people are consumed by their own awareness. Jung studied this carefully. He compared people with extraordinary insight who ended in completely different places. One example was Nietzsche. Brilliant, perceptive, capable of seeing through illusions with incredible clarity. But eventually, his perception overwhelmed him. Instead of integrating his insight, He became consumed by it. His gift became isolation, then collapse. Another example was Meister Eckhart, also deeply perceptive, also spiritually profound, but he approached his awareness with humility. He treated perception as service rather than superiority, and because of that, his wisdom nourished people for centuries. The difference was not talent. The difference was integration. And this matters for you, because deep empathy without boundaries becomes self-destruction. Intuition without grounding becomes paranoia. Sensitivity without self-awareness becomes emotional exhaustion. Jung asked a question that changes everything. Are you using your gift, or is your gift using you? Sit with that honestly, because the answer explains a lot about your life. Now let us move into something practical. How do you actually begin integrating this awareness instead of being overwhelmed by it? Jung suggested something surprisingly simple: observation. For the next 3 days, pay attention to moments that feel deeper than logic. Moments where your body reacts before your mind explains. Moments where intuition quietly speaks. Moments where emotional perception proves accurate. Do not judge these experiences. Do not force meaning onto them. Simply observe, because gifts reveal themselves through patterns, not isolated dramatic events. Patterns. Then begin naming what you notice. Maybe your strongest ability is emotional perception. Maybe it is intuition. Maybe it is symbolic dreaming. Maybe it is seeing beneath social masks. And when recognition finally happens, it usually does not feel like discovering something new. It feels like remembering something ancient, something you always knew, something you were finally allowed to admit. Then comes the most important stage: practice. If your intuition speaks, start listening in small decisions. If your dreams carry emotional truth, record them. If your empathy is strong, learn boundaries instead of shutting your heart down. Because integration is not about becoming mystical, it is about becoming conscious. And Jung believed consciousness changes everything. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That quote became famous for a reason. Because most people are being unconsciously driven by gifts they never understood. But once awareness enters the process, suffering starts transforming into direction. And there is one final truth you need to hear. Your gift was never given to make you feel superior. It was given to make you useful. The deepest people are not meant to dominate others. They are meant to help others feel seen. The most intuitive people are not meant to manipulate. They are meant to guide. The most emotionally aware people are not meant to drown in everyone else's pain. They are meant to bring consciousness into spaces that desperately need it. And when your awareness finally aligns with purpose, life begins changing in strange ways. Not magically, naturally. The right people appear. The right conversations happen. The right opportunities begin unfolding. Because you are no longer betraying your own nature. You are finally moving with it. And maybe that is why you found this video today. Not by accident, but because some part of you was ready to stop calling your depth a flaw. Ready to stop apologizing for your awareness. Ready to stop shrinking. Ready to become who you actually are. If this video spoke directly to something inside you, take a moment and hit the like button. It helps this message reach people who desperately need to hear it. And if you know someone who quietly carries this same depth, send this video to them. Sometimes, one moment of recognition can change the direction of a person's entire life. Also, before you leave, comment 777 below. Not because you suddenly became different, but because you finally stopped seeing your deepest nature as something broken. And if you are ready for more conversations about Jung, consciousness, intuition, shadow work, emotional depth, and spiritual awakening. Subscribe now, because this journey does not end here. This is only the beginning.